Another thing I said on Friday that I want to go a little deeper to in here is a friendly reminder for me and all of us is to find nuance in this whole Iran situation. Believe in nuance. You can be against Trump and for killing this guy, Soleimani. You could be anti-war and for killing this guy. You can be against how the war in Afghanistan lasted 18 years and be for killing this guy. I'll flip it around too. I'll give people against this decision some credit. You can think Soleimani was a bad guy and still think that this was an unwise move from the president. I'll give the left, some critics of this, some credit. I see people saying that they don't think this was a good decision. And then some pro-Trump people come back and say, oh, you think Soleimani was a great guy? No, that's not fair either. I'm not going to criticize nuance in this entire Iran situation from this point forward because that gets us into this mindless tribal thinking that got us into trouble with Iraq and has kept us in Afghanistan for the last 18 years, and I don't want anything to do with that here. Came across this comment from the lead singer of a band called the Airborne Toxic Event. Now listen, usually not my go-to source for foreign policy insight, but I do think he's right in this case here. He said, for those who did not live through the invasion of Iraq, here's what is about to happen. There will be a massive propaganda push by Republicans to frame this act of war as a moral necessity and to act like anyone who opposes it is working for the enemy. The propaganda push will include enormous appeals to American militarism disguised as patriotism, flag pins fly over, reverent cries to support our troops, as if the greatest support you can offer the troops is not to keep them from dying for no good reason. The people in harm's way, innocent civilians in Iran mostly, will be framed and or dehumanized as the enemy. This will include everything from racial slurs to endless talking points about their bloodthirst and hatred for freedom of Americans. This is why I asked our last guest about the people of Iran and how we should view them. When the bombs start to drop, all the reporting will be about the small number of U.S. troop casualties. For example, most Americans know roughly 4,000 U.S. troops died in Iraq, but what most Americans don't know is 200,000 Iraqi civilians were killed. That number's not true, but we're running out of time. We'll save that one for another day. The premise is still true, though. And even the U.S. troops, they will be abandoned too, as the people who waged the war, who made such big troops, will cut veterans' military care, forget the dead, and move on. And the media, especially cable news, loves a war. They love the spectacle, the drama. It means big profits. It means eyeballs on screen. It makes stars of their anchors. And what will get lost in all this bickering and drama and tragedy and spectacle is the fact that all this was avoidable. That Trump inherited a reigned in Iran that he set in motion, an escalation to war, because he thought it would benefit him. That's where I lose him, right? The last one is where he totally went off the rails. And we'll get back to that. But up to that point, I think he's mostly right. I think he's right. And I fell for pretty much all that in Iraq. And I've fallen for all that with Afghanistan. I fell for if you don't support this war, if you don't support everything about it, then you support the enemy. I fell for the patriotism means you have to support everything our government is saying and doing. I fell for that. I fell for these are bad people argument, which is weird. I fell for it both ways. I fell for and we talked about it with Claudia. These are bad people and they just want democracy. They love America and want democracy, right? Which doesn't make any sense. And I fell for the lie that we'll support our men and women when they come home. Well, we don't. Not nearly enough. And we'll hear talk in Iran that will be greeted as liberators, just like we did in Iraq, that will rebuild democracy. We're going to hear all of that. And I'm not falling for it again. I'm not going to get burned on this again. So I wildly disagree with his last conclusion statement, right? That Trump inherited or reigned in Iran. I mean, that was Mike Baker's very first point was, it's not like Trump just walked through the halls of the White House one day and was like, hey, let's just bomb Soleimani and kill him. No. Iran was far from reigned in, okay? So I disagree with his conclusion of it all, but I'm gonna watch out for all that other stuff this go around. I don't wanna fall for it again. But, as we said, I truly feel this president does not want a large war. I believe that he believes in peace through strength. To go to Claudia's point about what our model should be moving forward, and that is what Reagan did. I'll end with this. There was Hermann Goering. He was one of the top Nazi political officials, head of the Luftwaffe. There was an American psychologist. His name was Gustav Gilbert, and he was given access to the Nazi prisoners during the Nuremberg trials. And he wrote about meeting with Hermann Goering. And he wrote this conversation down. He said, this is Goering. So this is Gustav Gilbert's rewriting of what the Nazi war criminal told him. He said, why, of course the people don't want war. Why would some poor slob on a farm want to risk his life in a war when the best that he can get out of it is to come back to his farm in one piece? Naturally, the common people don't want war, neither in Russia, nor in England, nor in America, nor for that matter in Germany. That's understood. But after all, it's the leaders of the country who determine the policy. The people can always be brought to the bidding of the leaders. That's easy. All you have to do is tell them that they're being attacked and denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing the country to danger. It works the same way in any country. Again, I don't think Trump is doing this, but other people might be. Let's be careful moving forward with all of this. I support what Trump has done so far with Iran, but not based on emotion.